Feet Project 2/21/2025 Raw Pass number 1 Scene Mumble in Zoo. Official title of YouTube video reaction is Happy Feet, a Zoo Star is Born. First Raw Pass. Just noticing watching Mumble here as I see him with his eyes centerfold in front of the camera and the particle effects in the top right. You can see the fuzz coming off his body because he is still not yet fully an emperor penguin in the sense that he doesn't share the same color shade as them because he still has this fuzz, close-up, angular features of his nose. Interesting, cool. Just looking down, it's a top-up direction angle that the director chose to make. As you see, shades of blue on the right side, offset by Mumble's off-centered face in the middle of the screen, with the ceiling being, I don't want to say almost jail-like, but it kind of seems like it's very dark tan or concrete. It's kind of hard to see what type of ceiling it is, but it's obvious that Mumble's in a zoo. As you can see, patches of the walls are like literally falling apart. There's a hole in the top right above Mumble's top right shoulder where there's just a hole. So I don't know if this zoo is old, how much they put into renovations for this type of cell that Mumble's in right now. But one thing is clear right now in this moment is that, you know, he's definitely lost within himself right now. Now, if you've been paying attention, it's not stated in this scene, because I think in the previous scene, a narrator comes onto the screen and tells us how long he's been in the state, and it's been 3 months, so I can understand how they wanted to shift the scenes and just build up the intensity of him living in isolation. So, those are just the initial 2 seconds of what I notice. And let me see what else gets picked up. As you see the particle effects swirling, they transition from bottom up to top down view, where you see Mumble's head in the top left looking down, staring at a reflection of himself in the water. I'm not going to make more of it than what, it is. Presumably Mumble just, living in isolation, seeing the reflections of his choices and living in isolation. As you see particle effects, moving across the screen, and I had to give the animators credit because the particle effects look natural and don't look forced. It seems like the physics that they implemented in this movie for animation is really well done. It doesn't feel unnatural or like forced. Update time in section of the sequence is 6 seconds out of 2 minutes. I'm starting to hear some noise in the background. I assume there are other penguins murmuring to themselves. That's kind of funny. Murmuring to themselves. It seems like others are stuck in isolation with him. Right now, it shifted camera view to be one from a human perspective, where it looks like, the humans are staring at Mumble, but we are the viewers, so there's no glass, so to say, because I think the way the camera pan assumes that we're, basically looking through the glass watching him. So now we see a better view of like the cell. It's, not super close up of him anymore, where it's like you only got to see like parts of him, but but now we get to see him in full body for the first time in the scene at the 12-second mark. You get to see more of, the zoo and where he's placed. It seems like they chose a backdrop where it's a bunch of fake Antarctic walls. I'm sure the zoo people are trying to, in their best interest to make it feel alive. But at the end of the day, it's a zoo and it's a wall, concrete. You can see cracks on the walls. You can definitely tell that the zoo's definitely been in use for some time now. But obviously, they're doing their best. You just see Mumble's head perched up against the wall looking down. So basically, he's in the same stance he was before, but now we did a back-up view where we get to see him, as he is, in a much different state. So you see some formations that the zookeeper set up so they can hop on stuff and go in the water. But yeah, we're still at the same state that Mumble's in, looking down at the water, looking at his own reflection. With the particle effects still moving in as we pan outward, and now we're seeing the first real, moment of progression in this scene as we push the camera back and get a wider angled view. You start seeing some other penguins in the top left at second number 20, where you get to see a bunch of other penguins and other Antarctic animals, just huddled together, being close to each other. Unknown if they're in isolation, but I can still hear the clamoring of noise. So, I'm sure they're struggling doing their own battle, as the movie's focused on Mumble, but they just have as much of a right to feel isolated as Mumble does, because they're placed in the zoo outside their element. As we see this human girl, presume she's around 8 to 11, she starts tapping on the glass rhythmically. Kind of assume that this isn't the first time that Mumble has heard this. I kind of find it hard to believe that in 3 months that no other kid or adult has tapped the glass. So I just want to see how this progresses. They changed the view to a close-up of Mumble's face, where you see from his flipper up into his face. So you get this sort of side view of Mumble's face in a way, where it's the camera work is done really well. At second number 21, where you see him off to the side where you only see half his face. So the right side of his face is visible up until the first half. So the first right half, and then his left eye and his other half you can't see, but you can definitely see that he's noticed the human girl banging on the glass. So still particle effects and still showing the close-up of the wall that's close to a very, very light shade of blue. You can definitely see some eye movement because he's definitely contemplating. Sort of like how the human girl is reaching out for a call. He notices. Looks like he noticed for a little bit, but decided not to act on that. You can definitely tell that Mumble notices the presence, but he shifts his body posture and presence so that he's just brushing it off. So I assume this is what he does with all the children that he's seen the past 3 months, or the people tapping on the glass. He notices them, but doesn't want to act on those inhibitions because he's so deep in isolation right now. So you still go back to the original sort of stance he was in before the human girl tapped the glass. It seems like the other Antarctic creatures I mentioned not too long ago are still in the same position. They haven't really moved much, and if they did move, it's very subtly. Yeah, it seems like the human girl at second number 26 is trying to reaffirm the connection. She's tapping the glass again, the same exact way that she did the first time. Panning back to Mumble, where once again he notices, and this time you see a little bit more of the left side of his face. So you see fully from a front side perspective instead of side perspective, the right side of his face. As you can see, his eyes kind of light up a little bit. It's kind of moving all over the place. The first real spark, in a while probably, where it's like someone has reaffirmed that they want to reestablish connection and not just the initial. So let's see where this goes. As you see his beak slightly open up, you definitely can tell that inside his childlike inhibitions are amping up a little bit, but in his mind, you don't know if he's gonna want to slip back if this moment, doesn't, enter the way he might think it does. Because, in his perspective right now, the human girl, or as he likes to call them, aliens, this is the second time in a short period of time that she kind of rhythmically did the motion towards Mumble. And by this point in the movie, he's inclined to movement of the feet in rhythm. So she is calling out for a beat, and she is in a way checking him on his soul if he responds. So now, as we move into, these next couple parts, let's see how this progresses. Right now, we're at second number 30. Yeah, so at second number 31, we now fully see Mumble's face for the first time in the scene, front face. He's kind of staring the viewer, the moviegoer, directly in the eye. He's center stage. Right now, he's showing the same expression with his beak a little bit open. He's curious now. He's going to see where this goes. Yeah, so right now we're at second number 34, and they're showing behind the shoulder camera work of Mumble seeing the human girl. She can't be that old now that we see the size difference, because emperor penguins aren't that tall, so I assume she's much younger than my initial assumption of her being 9 to 12. She must be around like 4 to 7 years old. Just an average looking human girl wearing a pink, outfit. Pretty average. Particle effects still going around. And you see the contrast of black and white on Mumble's, shade of his fuzz. And yeah, just setting up the connection deeper. Second number 34. Second number 37. Pans back to the front facing view of Mumble, but it looks a little bit different. It looks kind of interesting to see, how they went back to Mumble again in the short period of time of maybe 1.5, 2 seconds. You can definitely see that his right eye is definitely focused, but his left eye is one of those looks where it's I see you, but he's more so curious. I think at this point he's just kind of looking at her okay, what's going on here? It's the first time in a while, or maybe ever, this has happened in this place. And right now you see the view, same as before. It's just slightly different than the other shots I've seen. You don't see any Antarctic animals in this visual right now. Second number 37. Oh my goodness, that was so awesome to see. So you guys can't see because I'm voicing my thoughts, but basically at the 37.5 mark, if you put it on half speed, you can see Mumble's right blue eye flash. It's like a way of him realizing, oh shit, this is real. You can actually see it in both eyes, but the right eye does it first, and then there's a little quarter-second delay where it happens in his left eye, but his spirit lights up. That was awesome. Yeah, you can definitely see that, oh my goodness, okay, so what he did with the information was interesting. So basically oh my goodness, this is so cool. So basically, you see his the light in his eyes flash. Then he starts looking down at his feet, and he's starting to dance right now. He's starting to use his feet to start dancing, moving on instinct. I mean, he feels it, and now he's responding. Oh my goodness! And now the girl's just watching him. Oh, this is good stuff. Now they're panning over to the girl, and she's just staring, and he's just so happy in his instinctual thoughts right now. He starts dancing right now. They're doing a bottom-up view where they show his feet first, and now it's showing his I don't know if that's a tail. I don't think penguins have tails, but they show like his feet up with the water to the right. So awesome. Now it's showing him full faced. We're getting a behind the shoulder view from the girl's perspective, where you see it Antarctic penguins on the left. They haven't noticed what's happened yet, but Mumble is happy, and he's starting to dance in front of this little girl. So let's see how this progresses. It looks like she's deep in thought, just taking in the mesmerizing notions of what she's seen, and now she's starting to smile at the 1 minute 1 second mark, and she's actually smiling. She's letting out laughter as a way to show how she feels in this moment, because sometimes you don't need to talk. The consequence was her laughing, and him dancing was the igniter. So now we get to the 1 minute 2 second mark where Mumble's dancing right now in a still frame where they show him bottom up of his feet, and you see like one Antarctic penguin at the 102. Nothing of note they haven't noticed. They keep panning back to Mumble and the girl as she starts walking away at 108, and he's like happy, and he's letting out sighs of happiness in short bursts. So at 110, 111, oh my goodness, I just love how this ties into the scene. So basically, what happens if you watch the 110 to 111 is that so what happens at the 110 to 111 is that, as he finishes off his little laughter, which could be assumed to be like, oh, well, she's running away as usual, but I don't see it like that. I kind of see it as like, wow, this is the first time I got to express myself in a little bit. And I just love the angle in physics that they used when Mumble let go of his right foot to end off the tap dancing at 111. So he's kind of leaning on the left side of his body as his right foot leans up. And I just love the way Mumble just kind of eases off the gas and lets the rhythm and beat of the dance, finish out naturally instead of him having to like statically just stop immediately. He kind of lets it play out. So we're at 113 of the video, and right now it's just showing a front-facing shot of Mumble. Right now he seems a little bit disappointed, but we'll see what happens now. We're at 113 of the video Happy Feet, A Zoo Star Is Born. Yeah, so yeah, you can definitely see that he looks, disappointed because he's starting to look down now and starting to maybe fall back into that isolation state we did at the very start of the scene. He's like signed and he's looking down, so like, we'll see what happens now. Okay, now we get behind the glass shot where we get to see the glass with no human there for the first time in the scene at 118, and we get a much wider shot of Mumble a little bit off-center to the right in the frame, and we'll see where this goes. So 120, it looks like the little girl is bringing over her parental figure. That's what I assume it is. I don't think any random little girl is going to bring over a stranger. She looks like she's, I don't know, in her 30s. I don't know, like, she's cordially dressed, kind of what you expect of people going to a zoo. And they must have a really good connection where, like, the guardian can just kind of let her see the penguins from the glass, without any adult supervision. Otherwise, if she was, like, just slightly off-center, off-screen, but just let, the child just, kind of wonder and, let her have her moment for seeing the zoo. I don't know if this is the little girl's first time visiting the zoo, or if they go multiple times, so that's why she gained that trust from her guardian. But anyways, all I need to know is that the guardian is here, and the girl brought her Guardian over to Mumble. So we'll see what happens. It is now 1:25 in the video. Okay, so 1:26, and within 1 second, really fast, little girl repeated the same initial movement, tapping the glass, the same exact movement. So we'll see if this lights Mumble up. We'll see. Because now the woman, the Guardian, I assume it's the mother, is watching now. 1:27, 1:28, we're panning back to Mumble as, oh my goodness, so 1:27. His eyes are lighting up again, and he's just so happy right now. Let's see what he does. You can see his bow tie on his little collar there, the little black little bow tie, as he's definitely lighting up. So connection reestablished at the 1:30. And now we're getting into Mumble's dance. He's starting to slide all over the place and move forward. Momentum. I love the little dance he's starting to do. And they switch to a behind the from behind forwards, cinematic view of, you see some Antarctic penguins at 1:35, kind of serving as like an audience, like in the bleachers. They're kind of like watching Mumble from behind, as you start to see some of the other guests behind the glass start to like kind of notice as Mumble starts his initial dance. It's only been like maybe 1.5, 2 seconds. We're at 1:36. Wow, a huge crowd is gathering now. Maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 people in the span of like 1.5 seconds of notice. So he has definitely been noticed. Now we're getting at 1:37 a behind the front scenes view of humans watching Mumble through the glass. You can see some Arctic animals sitting up, perched up on the little rocks in the middle of the screen, with Mumble taking center stage, with other penguins starting to notice. And you get a front forward view of the penguins that were initially in the last shot, seeing them from behind, where a second ago you saw it from their perspective, how close they were to Mumble, but now we're seeing it from the human perspective. So it's just, the contrast in shots that the director wanted to make. Seems like everyone's also cordially dressed as you would at a zoo. Nothing of note there. 1 minute 37 seconds into the video, you kind of get a better sense of the scale of the zoo, where it seems like it's a decent size, but it's not like the largest. So 1:37 as we have the music swell in. So this music song, if you don't know, it's a reprise of Mumble's, theme that happened earlier when he tried to sing, when Mrs. Astrakhan, tried to advise him on how to sing with his singing voice after trying in Miss Viola's class and failing. So the mother and father took him to Miss Astrakhan, who was coded, I would say, to be like a Russian singer or like opera singer. That's what I thought of when I heard her voice, like opera, like Russian, like deep, powerful. And she tried to teach Mumble how to sing, but instead of singing, he danced. And when he danced, he had a certain theme playing in the background. It was an instrumental theme, and that same instrumental theme is playing here. Now, let me get you the name of that instrumental theme, because if you want, I'll just tell you, because I know what it is. So give me like 1 second, because this is live. Give me like 30 seconds. Because like I said, this is a raw analysis of a 2-minute scene right now. So you have to search up the name John Powell, because he's the one that actually did the music for this. So I was going to say OST, but it's, in a way, it is the official soundtrack. But if you buy the official soundtrack, it won't have all the extra instrumentals. So you're going to have to search up the John Powell Happy Feet soundtrack. It has like 51, I want to say, songs in it. And the theme that is playing in the background of the zoo theme right now that just started playing is called... You see, it's down here somewhere. It's sometimes hard to find. Because, funnily enough, when they labeled the order of like the songs in this official soundtrack, they put it much later in the playlist, even though it initially happened very early in the movie. But they officially recognize it in like one of the 40s. It's called First Contact. First Contact is the name, which is kind of funny how they call it First Contact when the very first time it made contact was like in the first 15 minutes of the movie, not like the last 15. Which, I don't know, it's kind of funny little... But yeah, so right now, his theme, First Contact, started to play, maybe like the first 5 seconds as the music just started to settle in. So we're at minute 37 as we start to see some of the guests come in to frame, and as music's song called First Contact starts to play. So doing a lot of transitional changes in the camera work, where now you're starting to see the guardian figure lean over the little girl, and they're just showing happy expressions. As you can see, like, more humans start to move through, just move through the scene behind the glass. Some just naturally not aware, of like the penguin dancing immediately. It's only been like 4 or 5 seconds since he started dancing. People are starting to take notice, more and more people, as you just see Mumble dance more and more. So yeah, so we're at a minute 42 of the scene. You just see like Mumble just looking really happy. You're starting to see a lot of the other penguins, other Antarctic creatures starting to take notice. A lot of them, I don't know if they're stuck in isolation like Mumble, but they've definitely taken notice now. Definitely see that some of the penguins on the right side of the scene at 142 are like flabbergasted, and they're like, wow, what's going on? They're like, they did like, wow, this is the first real entertainment I've had in a while. Or like maybe they're slipping out of isolation for like, some time just to watch this moment. As you watch some of the Antarctic creatures on the left, they're like blue birds. I think they're penguins. I don't know. I haven't done a check on like what they are, but they're kind of looking at each other. If you look at 142 of the video Happy Feet as Zoostar was born, if you look at the very left corner, you don't see you don't see 3, animals next to a black penguin, and there's 2, like one lower than another, and they're looking at each other. It's like, oh my goodness, what is going on? This moment's happening. As we have Mumble, still framed with his mouth open, looking happy. So that's where we're at so far. So this is actually the first time we get to see more of the zoo. We move forward a few seconds to a minute 45, where you get to see this sort of like raised balcony or perch, where like people can look from a top-down view onto the exhibit of the penguins, and you just see everyone's just sort of like happy. There's one on the left and one on the right, and it's filled. You have a bunch of people with their cameras out, and they're probably about to take pictures very soon of this moment, because this is special right now. 147, the music swells to a crescendo where a bunch of the penguin audience behind Mumble are sort of like, letting out their ecstasy of the moment, where some are letting it fuel them by them actually moving their body very briefly, or them just watching him and seeing him. You see kind of Mumble waving to the crowd, which is intentional because, I don't actually think it's part of the dance. I think he's intentionally waving to the crowd. So if you look at 147 to 148, he like makes this small little movement with his left flipper. He's intentionally waving to the crowd. I will die on that hill. So 150, 152, you get a top-down view, so this is like the perspective of the humans from like the grandstand area I was telling you about. On the left side of the screen, you see like this watering swimming pool, and on the right you see another one. So it's just like, the way they set it up is that they have like this very large mound where the penguins can move around, but on like maybe the edges they have like a little pool underwater that connects everything. You see everyone's trying to fight for a spot to take a picture or video of Mumble as he's like turning his back and like letting the music swell, and him just letting out the rhythm and beat of his heart, move his soul as he, does his dance. And it's very beautiful to watch as you see right in front of Mumble from his perspective. Obviously he's turning his body and his back to the audience, but there's like a creature right in front of Mumble. So if you look at 1 minute 51 seconds, top left of Mumble. So like from Mumble's perspective, it's in his like top left. You just have some of these creatures walk up to him and kind of like get a lot closer to him. So it's like they're really curious, and so curious enough that you're within like 2 feet of him. Yeah, 154, you just start to hear Mumble laugh. I mean, I just love to see it, man. He's living out his dream. Like, he finally got the, talk to the aliens. Maybe not in a vocal capacity, but in like a physical space where he can portray his presence as like, the camera's kind of shifting all around, going left and right, just showing Mumble's, embrace and showing his isolation in this moment is gone. As he's, like I said, you just see the whole audience of penguins behind him, just captivated by this performance. At minute 55. So minute 56, they do a shot back to the bleachers where you get to see more up close of humans reacting as you have a PA announcer, it sounds like, kind of like going ham and giving out, how do I say this? Excitement to the crowd. Just, you just can tell that the PA announcer that is in there is just having a blast, just trying to get the audience to watch what he's seen in this moment, as the crowd probably already knows, but the crowd is building up and there's just a fight. It looks like, just for all the kids to get to the front just so they can see it, while the adults, try to ensure that this moment is special. Minute 56 of the video. 158. I just love how this scene just ties up at the end. Because right now, 158, we're getting behind the glass view where Mumble center stage again, but we go back to the daughter and what I assume to be the mother or guardian of that child, where it goes back to the initial, where originally the whole reason this scene exists is because the little girl went up and tapped the glass, and now it's just going back to, going back to them where it all started, as Mumble's still dancing and having a blast. I mean, I love it, man. Yeah, like I said before, like very next second, you just start seeing a bunch of like adults trying to push their kids up to the front of the glass to watch what's happening, as like the adults are just on their phones, just going ballistic, trying to get their family and trying to get like in contact with anybody just to share this moment with. It's just special. You even have, a bunch of the dads saying like, kids, you got to see this. Or like, oh, he's on now. Like, I would expect this out of like some, athlete or some sort of figure that's like special. Not something you would typically see for a penguin, that you can see at a zoo. But you just start to see the crowd try to fill in as people are rushing to try and see Mumble. Just love it. As we close out the scene, it's 2 minutes, 2 seconds. There's like a few seconds left. And yeah, it's just kind of funny looking back because, I kind of assume that the people talking on their phones, they're the ones with the money. And back then, 2006, it's the flip phones, baby. 2 minutes, 4 seconds, we pan back to, a low shot view of looking up at Mumble. So it's just Mumble continuing to dance with, the penguins, watching. They're so invested in this as Mumble shuffling side to side. And in the top left, at 2 minutes and 4 seconds of the video, you just see like the whole grandstand area where like people are allowed to watch. And now you can definitely see that it's split, where like you can either go upstairs and get a top-down view or stay at the glass level. And if you're at the glass level, you can probably see them underwater. So it's just a preference, And you just see him shuffling side to side, just living his life, man. Man, it's fucking awesome. And then they go back to a close-up of his feet as the scene fades. And that's Happy Feet, a Zoo Star is Born, that YouTube video. So this is the raw passing of me doing this scene for the first time. Those are the initials, so I might have to do a few passes. Because this is raw BTS analysis of Happy Feet. So I might break it down scene by scene, but this was the scene. So this was Raw Pass number 1 of Happy Feet. A Zoo Star is Born.